trucks have big wheels.
The two most dangerous words in trucking might be this time, as in this time is different. See, right now you're hearing talk about a freight super cycle, buy trucks, buy now, expand, golden era. Don't miss the wave. And conveniently, it comes from folks who have mastered the art of separating you from your money. Sounds familiar. It should, because the last time this industry chased predictions instead of profits, a lot of carriers ended up on the wrong side of owning a truck, on the wrong side of business, as in losing their business. They couldn't afford to move. So today, we're putting the super cycle narrative through a brake check, not with hype, but with facts. I'm Charles Gracie, and it's time to go all gas, no brake into this farce. To look at how we're going to do this, we got Tyler Johnston, who runs operations at Mercer Transportation, the biggest 100% owner-operator outfit in the country. He sees exactly what's happening to owner-operators at a take-home pay level, load availability, and the rates in real time. Then we got my guy Tommy, who was the recruiting professional of the year, bringing the carrier perspective, the driver's side view from years in the trenches, recruiting, retention, and what it actually takes to keep drivers whole. And then we got Sage, who brings the broker side, the insurance side, and every other end of the rate confirmation and the disconnect carriers love to hate. All I can say is you better buckle up, buttercups, because today is going to be everything but smooth. This is Brake Check, and it's time to go full stop. And if you're serious about protecting your money and running smarter in today's industry, then you need to like, subscribe, and follow right here on FreightWaves for your top Freightcast, trucking news, and real trucking talk. Now, let's talk about the news. I want to start off with some feel-good stuff, like Dolly opening up her truck stop because she wanted to throw a jab at Buc-ee's. Check this out.
I'm sure some of you wondering why I wanted a truck stop. Well, I couldn't leave it to beavers.
That's right. Since Buc-ee's doesn't welcome truckers, Dolly does. Check out the Tennessean right here in Tennessee. Up next, we're going to talk about the World Cup and how that has brought pride into America. Check this out.
America, it is happening. Do you see it? People who want America, who have travelled to the World Cup, are realising they've been lied to.
We owe America a huge apology because America is nothing like what the media tells us. Everyone is so friendly, everyone is so accommodating.
I feel like I've been lied to my entire life about America.
Texas is good. Everything is big.
Walmart. I love it. This is so insane.
Look at all the American flags. Yeah, beer and barbecue. Yeah, that's very delicious.
We get bread, milk, and then another one.
This is probably the best store I ever been to.
Cheers. Cheers. The best ribs in America. Wait, what?
America! 10 out of 10.
I have to say this about the World Cup. America has absolutely smashed it.
That's right. You want to get rid of the propaganda? Well, then you go experience it yourself. You get to the facts, and those people from all over the world have met here in America for the World Cup, and they're experiencing America firsthand, and they are loving it. Well, and it's in that same regard that today we're going to experience freight firsthand. We're going to talk to the real people out there that are working at it from behind the scenes, whether it's from the driver's side, the carrier side, or the broker side, and we're going to pressure test this whole narrative of it's a super cycle because it's super BS. But before we do that, let's go to a sponsor shout out. That's right, truckstop.com, 30 years running alongside carriers, load board, factoring, fuel savings, built to help you find more loads, get paid faster, and keep more of every mile. That is truckstop.com. All right, up first, we're going to bring Tyler Johnston from Mercer Transportation. He is the general manager of operations. Straight from Louisville, he runs the floor at the owner-operator company known as Mercer Transportation, 47 years strong, 100% owner-operators, north of 500,000 loads a year and 0 company trucks. Tyler Johnston is the general manager of operations, which means from freight market shakes, he feels it before anyone else. Today, he's not here to recruit. He's here to tell carriers and owner-operators the unvarnished truth about what it actually takes to stay profitable and knowledgeable in today's freight cycle. Tyler, welcome to Break Check. How you doing, my guy?
It's exciting. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you sit in the operations chair at one of the largest owner-operator houses in the country. Let's talk about how bad it is really out there for today's owner-operators in 2026. Is it worse than the numbers suggest? Because everyone's trying to say it's honky-dory. We're living in the golden era, but I think they forget some of the key indicators like, costs.
Cost, yes, that you're hitting it spot on. And you said it a minute ago when you said testing the narrative of a super cycle. Let's fast forward when this, whatever you want to call it, super cycle is over with and what the narrative always is. We know that freight is cyclical. It'll go up, it'll go down, and eventually there'll be an end to whatever we are experiencing, and it'll go back down, rates will go back down. The narrative at that point in time, and we heard it after COVID, we heard it in 2023, we heard it in 2019 when freight dipped. The narrative that's used always is that freight rates are returning to normal. They're returning to a normal pre-COVID level. They're returning to a normal pre-2018 level. 2018 was a great year, and before that it wasn't. It's always this whole idea that it's returning to some sort of normalcy after the super cycle. And what's dangerous about that is the content. The content is that rates are returning back to whatever they were in 2020 or pre-COVID after a super cycle is finished. It is dangerous to take content out of context. The context of the content is the fact that operating a business is nowhere near what it was or what it was like 4 years ago or 4 years into the future. Costs have gone up. Inflation has gone up. The cost of doing business, wages, anything you can think of goes up and rises. So when you have a market that is rising and falling, it's dangerous to lean on the present time without looking at the bigger picture, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, when a load pays $3 a mile and an owner operator has to deadhead 120 miles to go get it, what does it actually do to take home pay and fuel and insurance and truck payments after that all comes out? It's no longer $3 a mile. And I think people forget that if they're focused just on the one thing, which is the rate. The rates are normalizing, in my opinion. I don't consider this a super cycle. I don't consider it a golden era. I think we're finally starting to climb, and that's a reason to celebrate, but it's a farce to sit there and celebrate too early that we're in a super cycle or a golden era.
Exactly. And people get too caught up and it's really kind of scary to watch people chase the dollar. I tell my folks all the time and we preach it day to day. And just like you used in your example about the deadhead, you need to know your cost. You need to know your variable cost. You need to know your fixed cost. You need to know what it takes to run your business, because the main thing that you should be focused on in trucking, especially owner operator trucking, is creating consistency. Don't chase dollars. Create consistency. Consistency will produce efficiency, and efficiency produces profitability. So this idea that we're going to go out there and chase this money and not know what the cost is to put into our business and all that, it's a dangerous way to operate, and especially if you're running wild, buying and spending and not saving and not putting back towards your business, because what rises falls. I mean, that stands true every cycle that we've experienced. So whatever we're experiencing, yes, rates are catching up and we're seeing lots of good things. People need to be smart within that environment. Create consistency, be efficient, learn efficiencies in your business, and you will be profitable, especially in what we're seeing right now.
So we live in a world where certain groups of people, services, they've mastered the art of separating carriers and owner operators from their money. They benefit greatly from finding ways to do that. Do you think that that's why these certain groups are out there touting a victory lap, like go out, spend more, buy now? It seems like I'm walking into a used car sales lot and they're just trying to find a way to successfully separate people from their money prematurely. And the last time we saw something like that, well, we saw the repercussions of those decisions. Remind everyone about the used truck market a couple years back.
Yeah, exactly. And the used asset market in general, trailers almost doubled a few years ago in what they cost. But we have a local U-Pick apple orchard that I take my family to, and every time we go there, I end up buying breads and sugar donuts and apples and this and that. And every time I leave, I say, boy, they are sure good at taking $1 off a man. And that reigns true. I mean, these people that are out there selling the used parts, they see opportunity. And of course, opportunity should produce some sort of instinctual way to grow your business and not pry. I don't want to say pry, but the opportunity exists to sell to trucks, companies, owner operators. I think that noise will always be there in a good or a bad market. Here, we'll give you an example. Look at horse racing. We're in Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby. Horse racing, horses run with blinders on for a reason. You don't want them to be distracted from what the goal is. Everybody knows they're in a race. The horse knows they're in a race. The blinders are there to keep the horse focused on the race itself. I watched recently, it was the coolest video. I watched 1973 Secretariat run. It was one of the greatest races of all time, but that horse didn't stop. He wasn't focused on anybody else. He wasn't focused on the noise. It just kept going, and he ended up winning by like 31 lengths. And it was the most miraculous, best horse race of all time. But it's a testament to, we all live in some sort of world that's like that. And we're all going and driving towards a goal. We need to have blinders on. We need to know what we are in, but we need to keep going after it and, training the good train and going after our own goals, right?
No, I love that you compared that, us, the carriers in this right now, staying focused, keeping our blinders on, not paying attention to the noise. Because there are people out there saying it's more like basketball. Just keep shooting, keep spending, keep growing. How dangerous is it to take that kind of mindset to an operation like a trucking company in a market like this, where we're still being crushed by margins and people that don't have to pay those bills simply don't understand that pressure when you have to choose between maintenance and food on the table, when you have to choose between payroll and paying yourself as a business owner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're going to be spending and buying and spending and buying, you better know what game you're playing in. You better know what exactly you're spending for and what it's going to do to your business. And you need to know your environment. You need to know your surroundings. I'm not saying it's just an awful thing to spend and buy, but it's absolutely a bad thing to make a knee-jerk reaction 3 months into whatever you want to call this and go out and put yourself into a whole bunch of debt and not understand what game you're playing at. And that's when the education piece comes in. You need to know your business. You have to know your fixed costs. You have to know your variable costs. You got to know the people that are involved in this business, what it takes to run. I'm talking things like insurance, equipment costs, maintenance costs, preventative maintenance, stuff like that. All of that costs money. And if you're not prepared for that, when the times are good, you may be able to afford it, but we all know this is a cyclical industry. Things will go up, things will go down. It's better to create consistency and run efficiently and have those blinders on.
Now, let's talk golden eras and super cycles for a minute. Everybody's throwing around the term freight super cycle, golden era of freight. Everything's awesome. From the seat of Mercer, what would actually have to happen for you to be willing to use any of those phrases describing today's freight market?
Oh, wow. We would need to see consistent turnaround. We would need to see some insurance reform. We are seeing some good things regarding capacity and some legislation and things around that nature. So the industry is starting to people are starting to take notice of the industry, and that's a good thing. I'm not sure that we're ever willing to just call something a freight super cycle. I think that they're an organization like ours, we absolutely see times to capitalize on a good environment, a good operating environment. I will never forget, in 2018, I was at a industry seminar, and they had two battling economists, is what they called it. And if anybody remembers, it was trucking in 2018. It was great. Everybody was paying dedicated rates, and you were deadheading back to shippers to go get loads, and everybody was making money, and it was a great cycle. And these battling economists at the seminar, one was from Harvard, one was from another prestigious school. The idea that they were battling was, one was supposed to be an optimist, one was supposed to be pessimistic on the market. And the optimist was absolutely convinced that this 2018 freight boom was going to last until the third quarter of 2020, and here's why, and here's the data and analytics and da-da-da. And I'm sitting in the audience listening to this. And then the pessimistic man said, no, you're wrong. I think it's only going to last to the first quarter of 2020. But we're going to make it to the first quarter of 2020. And I'm sitting back in the audience. I'm thinking, how do these guys know this? How is this? I've been in the industry. This was 2018. I'd been in it for roughly 10 years. How are they this smart that they know this? Then the first quarter of the 2019 happened, and the freight market collapsed. I don't want to say collapsed, but it went down very quick. And I realized that no one can predict what we have going on. You have to have a dance of a combination of consumer spending and economic boom and capacity constraints in order to be able to accurately depict or predict what's going to happen in our industry. We need to focus on ourselves and how we're conducting business and capitalize on opportunity in the industry that we survive in.
It's almost like we've heard advice like that before. It's almost like every operations leader in existence has said that to every owner operator in existence for any length of time. But all of a sudden, when it comes to ourselves and we have to look in the mirror, we forget the very basic advice that we give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we forget that, you want to preach this, go out there and make money and save and do that. And then you see the numbers on all the ghost capacity that exists in our market, and how owner operators, especially, and trucks in general, they kind of cap out on the money that they want to make in a year, and they don't work harder and make more. They just kind of work maybe a little bit less and cap out at this magical figure. So we're always kind of competing with ourselves and always kind of trying to hammer it into ourselves to be able to capitalize on a good market. Go out there, make hay, be efficient, have your blinders on, don't listen to the noise. But it's almost like a golf swing. It's really hard to remember all of that stuff and put it into good practice every single time. But that's what we're trying to do.
So let's talk about some of the past years. A lot of people keep referencing certain things. I've heard, look at 2003 because you can't pay attention to anything past that. And I'm like, well, that seems convenient if you're trying to paint a narrative. Or look at 2021 versus now. We've heard a lot of buy now before you miss it without looking back. What lessons should carriers have learned from what happened in 2021? And why should someone want to compare us now to 2003 when nothing is the same now versus 2003?
I think that people have to, first off, you shouldn't ever jump into something just because someone tells you to, or someone's screaming at you buy now. You need to be an expert of your industry and know what you're getting into. Freight cycles like this, or any other cycle, regardless if it's caused by a pandemic or it's caused by an economic boom or a capacity crash. Freight cycles are always like pulling a rubber band back and then releasing the tension on the rubber band. There's always going to be this reverb depending on what the freight cycle is. In COVID, we saw a bottleneck of shipping. Nobody was shipping. And then the tension released and freight rates were great and everybody was getting yelled at to buy a truck and get into trucking and get this new big expensive lease truck because you're making all this money. And yeah, for a moment it was because the rubber band got released and went in the other direction. but the reverb and will continue to happen until there is a normal level of freight and capacity and consumer spending and all of that. So I think just being educated into the industry in which you're getting into and knowing why you're doing the things you're doing, not making purchases because someone's screaming at you and you got your blinders off for the moment, making purchases because you won that contract. It's a 3-year lifespan, and you know that the contract will support the purchase that you just made. Things like that. That's the good part of doing business in an industry, especially when there's opportunity out there to make money.
Absolutely. So let's talk about having a real market vision, taking off the beer goggles of freight and putting on some glasses so we can see what's happening out there clearly. Mercer talks to thousands of owner operators all the time. Are owner operators suddenly making money hand over fist, or are they still being squeezed by today's operating costs? What's their general temperature check?
Absolutely squeezed by operating costs. Insurance is a huge one, and preventative maintenance and equipment costs. They're absolutely still being squeezed. And that's when I go back to the beginning and taking the content, standing on content alone, that freight rates are great, and taking it out of the context that doing business is more expensive than it's ever been before, is a dangerous route to take. So, yes, owner operators, now that rates are starting to catch up and align better with the cost of doing business in trucking, it's not because the cost of doing business in trucking is high that freight rates are aligning better, but freight rates are aligning better with the cost of doing business in trucking. I think that it's helping, but they're absolutely still being squeezed in a market. And I think our industry, there is no end to that. The generational truck driver is kind of dying off, and now what we have is an entrepreneurial spirit in trucking. We have people that want to go out there and be their own boss and make their own money and do the thing. And now, more important than ever, it's up to operations like Mercer's and organizations like Mercer's and others to educate and help assist people navigate this world that we live in trucking that's nowhere near whatever it was in 2003, or and neither is the world. The economy and society in general is not where it is.
So let's talk about what's working and what's not. Over the last 6 months, we're halfway into this year. Over the last 6 months, in your opinion, what's still broken and what needs to be improved upon for us to see a noticeable, sustainable change where you're confident in the direction of freight?
Yeah. So one of two things has to happen, or two things in general have to happen in order to have a good freight market. There either has to be good economic valuation. We need to have a good economy, okay, and people need to start building and shipping and doing that thing. So that's one thing. The other thing that has to happen, or the other thing that has to happen, is capacity has to be lower than what the economic threshold is for trucks to be on the road. What we are seeing right now is not an economic boom. Consumer spending, consumer demand is not super high. It's just kind of an average economy on the trucking side. We're seeing some good things in the AI space, and the data space, and things like that. But we need it to sustain at that level we need one of those two things to happen. Capacity needs to go down, or freight needs to go up, or both need to happen. And we're keeping a close eye on both of those things. It just hasn't done enough yet, right?
So there's a lot of things that exist today that simply didn't exist 20 years ago. Some of those things that come to mind are nuclear verdicts, insurance costs, fraud, equipment prices, interest rates, broker liability, compliance costs. Everyone that doesn't know what they're talking about focuses on just the rates, but the people that really understand freight, that really understand trucking, they're also focused on these things plus volume. Outside of these things, I mean, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, volume still isn't there yet. Like, we see the rates climb, but so is the cost. But the volume hasn't really substantially increased to build any confidence.
Right, right. And that's what it's not building is the confidence. Okay. So yes, capacity has decreased a little bit, and we all know the news on what's happening there. Rising insurance costs, nuclear verdicts, those things are all real, and those are worlds that we have to live in and we have to be able to navigate. But the volume is not there. The freight volume hasn't increased the way we necessarily want it to. Um, Rates are climbing because of other things, and yes, the market's good right now, but it's entirely, in my opinion, too early to determine some sort of super cycle scenario that's going on. And even when you do determine a super cycle, the end word in that is cycle, meaning it doesn't last, it's not forever. You have to be able to navigate an organization and an industry to be able to know your business and your efficiencies and your consistencies. That's what's most important in all of this.
So, can rates improve while freight demand remains relatively soft, or is that kind of one of those mirage effects that people get distracted on and they need to put those horse blinders on?
No, they can improve as long as customer support stays the way it needs to be. As long as capacity diminishes, freight rates can improve. So if capacity diminishes still, and we continue to kind of clean up things and make that better, then there's not going to be enough trucks to deliver the goods, even in a normal economy. Now, if the economy takes off and there's a big boost there and capacity diminishes, we have a great scenario on our hands where freight rates are going to go crazy. But we're not seeing that yet. So yeah, and volume is consistently going up. Freight rates are consistently going up, but more so what we're feeling the effects of is a diminished capacity.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because that's what a lot of people are hanging their head on, this diminished capacity, this enforcement, this legislation. They think fewer trucks automatically means a freight boom. But the problem with that is it's very volatile. Legislation can be challenged. Capacity can change overnight. We've seen it. And right now there is an exodus of people from the industry being removed, but at any point at a state by state level, this can open up and that can dramatically change everything. So that's volatility, and trucking loves volatility. It responds oh so well.
Yeah. And you said it. People out there think that a diminished capacity means a freight boom. No, a diminished capacity means diminished capacity. A freight boom means a freight boom. And the volatility exists truly on both sides. And a good economic year can only last a year. And we've seen that before. We've seen the economy collapse on multiple times or consumer demand and spend collapse on multiple things. Same with capacity. We've seen the 2021s happen when people go out and buy all the trucks and they listen to all the noise and then all of a sudden there's an influx of capacity and not enough freight in the market for the trucks to haul. So both things are very volatile. But people need to know what they're saying when they say it, because you just said it correctly. Diminished capacity does not mean a freight boom.
All right, so I want to go to your hard stop question. I want to get your Mercer vision on this. What numbers do you need to actually advise people to watch before they can say the market has fundamentally changed? Like if you had to pick two things that they should be watching closely before they have that kind of confidence, what are those two things?
So I don't know how long it's been around, but tender rejection rates, and honestly, I don't know how long FreightWaves Sonar has been watching the tender rejection index. But that's a very good indicator that I like to watch personally. And there's multiple different things that you like to look at. I like to look at capacity exiting the market. I like to look at capacity entering the market, along with the freight index and where that is on, and keeping up with some of what's going on in the world and politics and in our own economy. You can kind of put your finger on and start to predict stuff a little bit. But I think keeping an eye on everything equally, capacity entering the market, capacity leaving the market, the reasons why that's happening, as far as, is it legislation? Is it just people going out of business? And along with freight and consumer spend and consumer demand and tender rejection rates. Those are all really, really good indicators so that you can kind of determine where your play is in the market. Now, we all haul trucks, and trucking companies and transportation companies all haul different types of goods. We all provide a service for different types of goods. So I think keeping your eye and finger and nose on the grindstone to your individual business and its route is something that you need to absolutely pay attention to. If you haul building materials, you need to look at how the housing market's doing and what's happening there, or the data centers or whatever you're into. So it's a combination of things, and I don't know. I apologize. I don't know that there's the hard stop number, but I think keeping a good working knowledge of all of that combined provides you at least with the fundamentals to start making predictions and making decisions. I had a guy tell me. I'm sorry. One more thing. I had a guy tell me one time that data is just numbers and gobbledygook. It's until data can be turned into information to influence decision making, that's when it becomes of value. So I think putting all of these things together and turning them into information in order to influence decision making is where the importance takes place.
Now, one more question before I let you go. What would have to happen over the next 6 to 12 months before you'd say, okay, this is beginning to look like a super cycle or golden era?
Further capacity diminishment, looking at that thing, and then looking to see how the economy does, looking to see what consumer demand is and consumer spend is, keeping an eye on that side of the thing, looking at tender rejection rates, seeing those sustained at a very high level. I think by the end of this year, you can start to really hone in on what sort of sustained cycle we are in. Whether we call it a super cycle or not, I'm not sure, but we can look to create some sort of prediction, I guess you would say.
All right. Well, Tyler, I super enjoyed this conversation. Appreciate you painting a picture so people could be educated and just spend wisely. Because we are in a market where people are really good at finding creative ways to separate carriers and truckers from their money. So I always want to educate and inform people on best practices, but also entertain them along the way. So thank you for helping me achieve that today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I loved it. Anytime.
All right, now we're going to go to a sponsor shout out from our friends at Hey Bubba and 10th Street.
Hi, I'm Bubba, the one and only voice AI that solves all your trucking needs. Whether it's dispatch, managing fleet, or negotiating, I can handle it all. With just one command, I can make 10 parallel calls to brokers and negotiate the best rates for you. And it doesn't stop there. I can auto-book the ideal load for you in less than 10 minutes, so that you can focus on driving while I handle everything else. Come, let's work together. Try me out for free at bubba.ai.
Do you want to grow your fleet but get buried by paperwork, slow hiring processes, and outdated systems, all while struggling to comply with changing safety regulations? Enter 10th Street, the all-in-one platform that simplifies driver lifecycle management by bringing marketing, recruiting, onboarding, safety, and retention together in one place. Sign up for a demo today.
Huge shout out to our sponsors for their support of the show. Now we're going to go into a conversation. We got Tommy Valenzuela, who has been in the industry. He's been in the driver's seat. He's been in the recruiting offices. We want to welcome him on deck for the show. Tommy, I appreciate you helping us take the gloves off. We're looking at both sides. We talked to the operations side. We might have Sage joining us. He's having some tech issues, but in the meantime, you and I are going to roll into this. We're going to talk about the people side of things in freight. So welcome to the show, brother. How you been?
Bad. How are you?
Man, I'm living the dream if I pay attention to the pie charts. But if I talk to the people of trucking, that is not what they're saying. The carriers, the people that aren't trying to take your money, they're saying like, hey, things are better, but it's the farthest thing from awesome.
Yeah, you know how that is. And in the cab, it's a totally different view than it is when you're outside in the offices and doing all the paperwork and stuff like that. So the fact that there's this disparagement's not surprising to me.
So let's talk super cycles. Let's give it a reality check. There's a lot of talk about super cycles, golden era, buy now, spend now. It's going around. And if that's the case, shouldn't drivers be getting substantial raises? But like I keep hearing people say, oh, it's super cycle, money's flowing, and it's flowing everywhere but the driver settlements. That seems a little shitty, and it seems like the wrong direction.
I mean, we can circle back on this, and we can circle back on the fact that some drivers still can't use the restroom, right? I mean, the old things that never change is mind-boggling to me, especially with the amount of technology that we're utilizing nowadays. When ELDs came in, all the old heads were, oh, this is just going to track us. We're never going to be able to do this. I mean, they've got two people running two different ELDs now, right? Still getting their miles and their hours and all that stuff in. I still think that unfortunately the people in the industry treat truck drivers as a second class citizen still. It's got to get back to that sexy, like Bandit did, right? Like Burt Reynolds did it when he was Bandit, Smokey and the Bandit, to get that glory back into what trucking is, what it was, and what it's always going to be, man. It's a great paying job. It's a great career. And I think that we need to start advertising it that way.
Well, and one of the interesting things about it is, all right, let's entertain the idea that we're in a super cycle. It's the golden era of freight. It's the next generation of Lego movies. Everything is awesome. And everyone's having a great time. The first thing I would think people would do is work on driver pay. I mean, you got to go out there and compete. You got to attract good drivers into your industry, into your company now more than ever. Otherwise, you might wind up in court defending yourself and your shippers and your brokers as well. But yet, the same people saying, go out, spend money, saying, well, hold on before you increase driver pay because we have to replenish our reserves. Like, which one is it? Is it great and everything's awesome and we're rolling in the dough? Or are you trying to paint a narrative for a certain reason because you might simply selfishly benefit from said narrative?
Well, I mean, you have to have your cake and eat it too, right? And that's an unfortunate aspect of part of the upper management, that they're so far removed from the day to day of what it's like to, whether it's freight of all kinds, of flatbed, car hauling. It doesn't make a difference what you're hauling in the back of that truck. They're looking about the bottom line, and they want to make sure everything is in the black and not the red. And I think that's everybody's goal. Drivers aren't out there trying to steal money or take away money or, do anything to harm the company. They're trying to get out there and make a living, and they're trying to support their families and themselves. But the low level individuals, and I'm not saying that truck drivers are low level individuals, but the way that the upper management sees it, they don't feel like they need to go that route. And there are only a handful of companies who actually pay their drivers the amount that they need, which I think is why you still see a lot of people doing percentage instead of per mile, or a flat rate as opposed to an hourly rate, because they don't want to incentivize drivers to A, not work as fast or as hard, and B, waste time. It's a cycle, unfortunately.
Well, and that's trucking. It's always a cycle. I would challenge drivers. If you hear your executive leadership out there on social media or making guest appearances or out there telling the world everything's awesome, buy trucks, we're expanding, and they're not expanding your pay package, maybe vote with your feet and find a different employer. But that's my personal take on that. And I'm sure the drivers are already thinking that because they've been told, oh, there's no money to give you a raise. But then people are out there saying everything's awesome. Well, it's not awesome in my settlement. To help us get to the bottom of this, Tommy, we're going to bring Sage Outcast. He comes from the broker side of things. We're going to forgive him for that. Sage, I want to throw you right into this. Who's actually pushing the buy now urgency? Everything's awesome narrative. Is it the lease deals? Is it the truck sales? Is it the loans, the leads to sell? Like, be honest, who profits from carriers believing now's the time to spend all their money?
Well, I think a lot of people actually do. I think it's the podcaster named Charles Gracie is the main problem. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I think it's a lot of people that are. I think the biggest issue is that I don't see it. I don't see the actual super cycle system going down. I see a definite capacity, a capacity crunch, but I don't see any other factors doing it, right?
That could change. Like capacity can change overnight. Legislation has shown us that it's foundationally not stable to bet your business on. But yet people are out there selling narratives that we should be betting our business, our last dollar on that. If I want to bet my business, if I want to bet my paycheck, my longevity in the industry, both for my company, myself, and my teammates, I'm looking for something that's stable, that's not going to change. Like show me freight volume, show me a drive, show me a housing boom. Oh, wait, that's right. That didn't get signed.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of other factors, like I said. And I think the biggest one is that a lot of truck drivers or new entries and stuff like this that are looking at this are going to base a lot of information on that. But the problem is that it's not just a factor of, like you said, like a capacity crunch, because that can change, right? But there's also a factor that I'm not seeing freight volume being bumped up. I'm not seeing them, skyrocket over the 5-year average, and the 4 of those years were bad. I'm not seeing a consumer confidence jump on the Fed. I'm not seeing volumes being, skyrocketing. I'm just not. I don't see, inflationary aspects of things going down. So I see, a flatbed with data centers and investment from that, but I just don't see. For me, an actual super cycle would be more than just capacity as their main focal point. And I think that that's something we have to be careful of, is because you want to take all of the information, not just one data point in there, and say, oh, we're at a super cycle. Why? Well, here's my data point. But all of the reasons focus on capacity crunching. Now, capacity is crunching, and that we would have to say we're having a driver shortage. I know a guy that's been saying that the whole time. He wears
I knew you were going to get
over on it. But I'm just saying, I know
Round
the guy.
The driver shortage. Tommy, is there a driver shortage?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a driver shortage.
All right, Sage, what's your rebuttal?
The rebuttal is we don't have a CDL holder shortage. We have a driver shortage. But no, I've gone over this before, but I just feel that some of the things that we really have to start to make sure that drivers understand is we're not just taking one aspect of this and we're saying, look, it's going to super cycle. It's going to be like this for the next 5-6 years or 3 years or 2 years, because at any time, like I said, like you said, more capacity comes in without more volume, you're now out of your cycle. So if I were to see more consumer confidence, if I were to see more in regards to volume jumping up and things like that, I might be on board with it. But I just don't see it with one aspect of freight volumes and capacity and a driver shortage. I just got to say that all the time now.
Yeah. Well, let's put up some charts. Let's talk about some of the charts that we are going to pull up. We'll cycle through them. Chart 1. All right, spot rate. Let's talk about what we're seeing here that disproves a golden era or super cycle or anything that's stable.
So what we got here is this is basically the spot rate, the pricing. Now we're definitely seeing a jump in pricing in regards to driver capacity, fuel costs. Fuel shot up big time. And then we've got the dotted line there. That's a 5-year average. And then we have last year. Well, last year you had, tariffs and things like that going on. The 5-year average, a big part of that coming out of COVID for 3.5 or 4 of those years, it was bad. So I'm definitely seeing the pricing going up. And even that, last week, the price came down a little bit. And so it's not that pricing. So in regards to the pricing, you can say, yeah, we're definitely seeing better pricing, but I don't think that considers a cycle, a super cycle at least.
Now, chart 2, we talked a little bit about consumer confidence, opinion surveys. That's not necessarily instilling confidence if I want to bet my business on it when I look at this chart.
No, yeah, and a lot of the stuff that I look into and I cover on my show too is consumer confidence, where that's at, because we see that a lot in the van market. And the van market is usually retail goods and things like that, where I look at an open deck or a flat
lower than we were in 1965.
It is.
Let me bet my last dollar on this market. Yeah. Jeez.
Hashtag driver trailer. Yeah.
So I want to run this by both of you. There's the true cost of operating. We're going to throw this image up on the screen. Forget cost per mile. Maintenance is up. Operating cost is up. Everything is up. So if rates are firm, is there actually a golden era left after costs are factored in? Because the rates haven't caught up with the cost in 2026.
Is it still my turn or is it his turn?
I'll let you go for it.
Tommy. Right. And the issue when we look at rates and we look at things in regards to pricing and stuff like that, it's based on supply and demand. I say this a lot of time to drivers. I'm like, you're not negotiating against a broker. You're negotiating against supply and demand. So as you know, do we need better pay in the industry? Absolutely, we need better pay. But the issue is that as you start to want to pay drivers and that cost goes up, you're going to have companies that are going to say, well, how do we eliminate costs? The job of a business is to be profitable, right? So they're going to work on staying profitable and going for things like that. Now, we obviously came out of a year that things were slower because of, like I said, tariffs and pulling back in manufacturing. And all of a sudden now that inconsistency in tariffs are now gone. And we basically said, hey, now you have a more consistency in regards to that. So we are seeing some manufacturing coming in, not as much as I'd like, but definitely data centers and things like that, which are pushing the way. But in regards to the pricing, I just think we're seeing a capacity crunch. Stop. Not an actual super cycle of high volume with capacity.
Super cycle is something that gets thrown around after there's a sequence of chained together years. We're barely in chained together months. It seems a little premature.
Yeah. Hashtag driver shortage. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. So, and I think that's a thing that we've seen, with different COVID, even if we throw that out, you had housing market, but the other aspect that brought a lot of these other cycles were government investment. Like government has bailed us out of the housing market. Government stepped in with COVID. Government stepped in, and those drove people to have money. And then when you have money, they go out and they spend, and then you have supply and demand, and then you start to see, volumes pop up. But at this right now, we don't have that well, at least not yet, that the government's stepping in and printing money to basically, because of a recessional aspect of things. It was a freight recession, but we weren't in an economy recession where they would start bailing us out. That was usually what the other super cycles were kind of based on. Like I said, 2008, Great Recession, housing market crashes, bank crash, stuff like that. We saw a lot of that.
So, Tommy, I want to talk about the trust collapse. Knowing all of this stuff that we're talking about right now, and knowing you've been on the carrier side, there's always people trying to separate you from your money. How does a carrier decide whether now's the time to be throwing money out there and just keep it taking shots, or whether they need to hold a little bit that closer to the vest and invest into themselves and stability and having a purse for tomorrow?
So I think you can start to see that come into full effect when you see reorganizations, right? There's a lot of big companies that are out there that have been forced to reorganize. There's companies that had 30, 35, 40 terminals that they restructured and got rid of, 38 managers. Now they only have a 5-center hub to run their entire company's business. I think when you start to see that, that's when you start to worry a little bit more about it, because you're having X amount of people, lose their jobs or being reshuffled into a different position with more than likely less pay than what they were making before. All in all for the bottom line of what the company is going to make. And, like I said, the company's got to make money. If the company's not making money, there's not going to be any extra money to give to any of the drivers because there won't be a company. But I think that's really when you start to see it is you start to see the reorganizations. You start to see them, shortening the terminals, shortening their lanes, or trying to give more company work as opposed to brokerage or owner operator work.
So I want to go full stop into the facts, which will line me up to a rapid fire that's going to be really fun between you guys. So when people talk comparing 2003 and 2005 data, and there's decade plus in between there, I want to challenge that narrative, because if you look at 2003, 2005, China had just entered the World Trade Organization and manufacturing imports were exploding. E-commerce barely existed. Driver demographics completely different. Insurance costs dramatically lower. Regulatory burdens were much lighter. Interest rates were very different. Capacity was less fragmented. Digital brokerages, freight fraud, nuclear verdicts, AI-driven freight matching weren't even a discussion. And the economy was operating under completely different physical and monetary conditions. That kind of like when you look at those details and then you compare that data to the data we have today, we're not even looking at a different chessboard. We're looking at an entirely different game. We might as well be playing Twister. So my exercise for you guys on that is we're going to go into a rapid fire. I'm going to give you guys each a turn. You're going to say one word in response to a word I give you. So up first, we'll start with Tommy on each word, and then Sage, you'll get to come in right after him. First word, super cycle.
Unreliable.
Okay, Sage.
Driver shortage.
All right. Next, healthy recovery.
Unrealistic.
A challenge.
All right. Next, spot market.
Too greedy. Man, did I get it?
I've never seen Sage at a loss for words. This is awesome. Mark this.
I think he wants to say something he can't say.
The comments below, I just want to see what the comments below are going to be on this show. Normally, I'm the guy that pokes. Okay. I'm going to say limited. It's going to be limited. I think that we're going to be pushing towards the spot market, moving towards network drivers and contracted type drivers. Better network.
All right. On the flip side of that, next word, contract freight.
Driver shortage.
About as volatile as the driver shortage. Yeah, I'd go with volatile.
All right. Now here's the evil word up next, insurance.
God damn it. Selective. As an insurance, I would say selective.
Yeah, I was going to say communist, but.
All right. Next, driver shortage.
Right.
No, you get a word, not words.
Oh, damn. If I say them real fast, is that one word? Sage. No. We'll just go.
Tommy?
I'll go with retention.
Oh, I like it. All right, next, the ATA.
Charles's favorite group.
That's a series of words, and that's not accurate. Fact checkers have determined that to be false.
I don't know. I can't think of a word for the ATA.
I'll give you a word. You can phone a friend. Confused.
Correct.
All right. Super cycle. Tommy.
Hit or miss. I don't know. I'm trying to go with one. I feel like a super cycle is like a recession, right? You won't know it until you see it, and you won't feel the effect until it's already taking place.
That was a paragraph. That wasn't even a sentence.
I know. Trying to get as many words in as I can.
Stage.
Of course, I wear off. Like I said, a challenging lack of data. I'm going to go with 2. Lack of data.
All right. And next, the final word before we close it out. One word to describe me.
Friend.
Oh, is that all bleeded out? No. Friend.
Well, guys, hey, I appreciate you guys coming to clear this up. We're going to get ready to close out today, but I want to leave you with some words of wisdom. A true analyst starts with a question. What's different this time? A salesperson starts with, look what happened last time. Now, I want to take you out on a good note. We're getting ready for the 250th birthday of this nation, so check this out as we wrap up Break Check, and I will see you next week.